right, I'm calling the meeting to order of the IT Executive Steering Committee at 1:03 p.m. on Friday, April 25th, 2025. I'd like to inform everyone that Ian Nichols, the authority's marketing and creative specialist, is making audio and video recordings of today's meeting. If anyone else is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting, please identify yourself by pressing the raise your hand icon on the Zoom dashboard, or if you're joining by telephone, by pressing *9 on your keypad. And when you are recognized, please state your name for the record. Thank you. All right. Pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, as amended, committee member John Cahill, Mr. DeWitt is not on.
I don't see him.
Committee member John Cahill is participating remotely in today's meeting because his physical attendance today would be unreasonably difficult. Committee member John Cahill is participating in the meeting by the Zoom video conferencing app, and he will be clearly audible to us at all times. As a result of John Cahill's remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken by the committee members today shall be by roll call vote. And the committee members in attendance are myself, Peter Jeffrey, Falmouth board member and chair of this committee, and John Cahill, Vineyard Haven Port Council member. Eric DeWicki, Fairhaven Port Council member, is not here today. Mark, you'd like to introduce who's here from management?
Okay, from the Steamship Authority, I'm Mark Rosen, Treasurer Comptroller from the Steamship Authority, obviously. Stephen Coleman, our IT Director, Mark Munson, our Chief Operating Officer, Ann Nichols from our marketing team, Peggy Nickerson, our Procurement Officer, and Monica Andrade from the General Manager's Office. And from Givus, Tom, you want to introduce the Givus team?
Sure. So this is Tom Innes, principal with Givus, and I'm joined by two of my team members, Renia Ciabanas and Lizzie Green.
Before we start on the agenda item, I would just like to take a moment to remind us all of our strategic plan framework, so that we can think about this as we move forward, as how this moves our strategic plan forward. So the vision is that the Steamship Authority is the lifeline for the islands and a valued and respected part of our communities. We are committed to the highest levels of safety and reliability and to the stewardship of the Cape Islands and our waterways. Our organizational mission is to operate a safe and efficient and reliable transportation system for the islands of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, with a commitment to sustainability, accessibility, our port communities, and public engagement. And just looking at our strategic outcomes, one of our main strategic outcomes in that plan is to engage with our communities, and part of that initiative is looking at a new reservation system, which is the focus of this group. With that, I'll turn it over to our project owner and project managers for the agenda.
So Tom Givus from, Tom Innes from Givus, excuse me, will be doing the presentation today.
Yes, and you have the presentation available to share.
I'm going to public comment first.
Sure. I think I mentioned this, that we'll have public comment at the beginning and at the end. So if there are any public comments to start, I'd invite that. I would ask that we're trying to keep this meeting to 90 minutes at maximum. So keep that time frame in mind, as well as what the focus of this meeting is in terms of the reservation system and experience. Is there anyone for public comment at the beginning of the meeting? And as I said, there'll be public comment available at the end.
And I think there was one hand up.
Ms. Cody, you are live to talk.
Yep, Amy Cody Chilmark. I have two procedural questions. One is, will you be presenting updates to the board on a monthly basis of what this committee is doing and how the reservation project is going? And number two, will there be minutes posted on the Steamship Authority website of these minutes every time you meet? Thank you.
I'll answer them in reverse order. Yes, there are minutes being taken. We have Liz Freeman from Gibbous will be our official minute taker. And the minutes will be posted. They'll be approved by the committee members at the next scheduled meeting and then posted thereafter. I think our policy is usually we don't post draft minutes until they're approved. So I think we'll continue with that policy, but there will be minutes. And then as for reporting back to the board, it is my intention that we will do monthly reporting back to the board on this committee's work, subject to, I guess, the approval of the chair, including that on the agenda, which I presume won't be an issue.
If I may.
Yes.
Sure. John, you're also gonna present at the Port Council meeting as well, correct?
Yes, I will. Yep.
And so our plan is that this committee will meet in between both the Port Council and board meetings and report back to both bodies. Any further public comment at the start of the meeting? All right, seeing none, we'll move forward with the agenda.
All right, great. Well, while the slides are coming up, we've been looking forward to an opportunity to present an update on where we stand with the reservation system planning process. Right now, we're in the midst of the RFR evaluation. And so I'm going to share with you what I can share, and just as a reminder that the procurement process has a lot of rules around it in terms of what can be shared and not shared as you're in the midst of the procurement process, because we want to make sure that we're staying consistent with the evaluation process and which is really built around selection of the best vendor and giving the most fair process possible to the vendors who are bidding on it. So that being said, we're very happy with the progress to date in terms of we're currently by our measure on time with how we had expected this to proceed. And so at this point, we're now, and actually, would you mind advancing to, well, let me just cover this quickly. So we were going to give an update on the RFR, and then the other agenda item was to touch base on the PMO contract, and then old and new business and public comment. So the evaluation update, which is on the next slide, that as was shared in the most recent board meeting, we've had 9 vendor responses, which we really appreciate everyone's submittal. 4 of the vendors are currently moving forward for the demonstration. So the review of responses was over a period of days. Each was reviewed based on a scale of highly advantageous to not advantageous, and using a 5-point scale that was identified in the RFR to evaluate each component of the vendor responses. So what this included was, and we wanted to address some of the questions we know had come up in terms of what had we been looking at. We looked at the business response, a functional response, and a technical response. in the business response, looking at, in some cases, more qualitative aspects, such as the bidder's profile, their experience, qualifications, the team that they proposed, what was their, overall approach and timeline, how did they intend to work with the Steamship Authority in terms of, training and communication, and how would they support the ongoing need of the system. As a reminder, the intent of this is to procure a system that is a software as a service. So a system that is already created, it's already built, it's already in use, and then the steamship will adopt that system. As opposed to going down the path of trying to create a system, build a system, develop a system, really looking to use a system that is, we can use a system that is already successful, it's already working, and then again adopt that to the particulars of the steamship. The other two components were a review of functional requirements and technical requirements. There's 640 separate functional requirements. This included things like trip management, how to handle commercial customers, things like parking permits. So this was all detailed in the document itself that all the bidders responded to. And then there's also a set of technical requirements, 99 to be specific. This included things like service level agreements, what kind of uptime was needed in the system. And so each one of those components was scored, and then has led to the selection of the 4 vendors moving forward. In terms of if there's no questions, in terms of the timeline from here, yeah.
Was there like a mean score for the 4 vendors that went forward to the demo?
Yeah, so the 4 that moved forward were considered highly advantageous or more advantageous. Okay. And the 4 that moved forward based on the evaluation criteria had clearly demonstrated to the committee a higher standard of advantageousness.
If I may, the committee was made up of 7 members. Mark Munson, the Chief Operating Officer, Allison Fletcher, the Director of Shoreside Operations, Angela Campbell, the Reservations Manager, Stephen Coleman, the Director of IT, James Ashley, our network, Senior Network person, Kelly Conrad, who is a data and financial analyst, and myself. So there's a broad array of people within the organization.
So every stakeholder who will touch the system at the Steamship Authority was represented.
Yeah, it represents a cross-section across operations, the accounting and finance, and technical. And this, for awareness, this really follows best practice of government procurement, where you really want a mix of the stakeholders that are going to be using the system, leverage their different expertise and insights and voices to then be part of the evaluation process.
Just like that, it was very balanced in all the selection committee. And we had, I think, a very good resolution on selection of the 4.
John, did you have any questions before we move on to timeline?
No, just a comment. I appreciate Mark Amundsen's comments, but I couldn't hear what they were.
It was just a very balanced selection committee, and the core competency of each, having operations, technical, accounting, it was and IT was just a very balanced group as far as how for the selection committee.
Right, thank you.
Okay, And so the selection committee will continue to gather and meet. So it's the same team that moving forward will be participating in the vendor demonstrations. And those are scheduled for the end of this month, they'll be the last week of this month, so going into 5/2. Then the process from here is to go through the vendor demonstrations, then re-rank the proposals based on the demonstrations and open the financials. This is following the process that had been laid out for the vendors. So an additional component is that the vendors will be asked for a best and final offer, which I realize we haven't spelled out on the slides, but that's what BAFO stands for. So the BAFO will then be considered, and there'll be a re-ranking of the evaluations based on the best and final offer. And that will be at that point, the committee will be able to do a final review, a final ranking, and then make a recommendation to the general manager for the vendor that will be shared with the Port Council and board. The intent is at the May board meeting, so assuming all these dates work, which we're confident they will, at the May board meeting, there'll be a vote to select the vendor that was the preferred vendor coming from the ranking. After that, we will then.
John's got his hand up.
Oh, John, you have a comment?
Oh, just a quick question. Can you go into, or not so quick, but could you go into a little more detail on how the vendor demos will be managed?
Yeah, so each one of the vendors will be given, again, in the interest of fairness, they'll be given the same amount of time and they'll be presented with the same questions. So the way these have been scheduled is actually all-day sessions. In the morning, the intent is for the vendors to walk us through their system, walk through a script that they've been provided in terms of which functionality we want to see from their system, and then the afternoon has been preserved for more of a conversation and dialogue to clarify components of the demonstration and their proposals. But again, the components of those discussions have been laid out ahead of time.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, each one of the vendors has been given a full day, so we'll meet 4 days in a row. Again, those are part of the closed evaluation, and then that should give both the Steamship Authority, the ranking and evaluation team, the opportunity to get a much deeper understanding of the systems. And then it will also hopefully give the vendors a much better understanding of the Steamship Authority, which will help inform their best and final offer. It's really important that we get this right. Right, the technology is something that's hard to install. There's a lot of change that has to happen, and so because of that, this is it's going to take well over a year is planned for the implementation, and then the system will be in place. The expectation is at least 5 years, understanding that often it will go much longer than that. And so it's really important to get it right. And so while this is a tight timeline, we are going through all the steps to make sure that the outcome is a favorable outcome, both both for the steamship authority and for the vendor. Because it's once the vendor starts, it's really gonna be a partnership. So it's important to get it right.
If I-
Through the chair, if I may, Mr. Chair, question?
Sure, can I ask mine first?
Oh, yeah, I didn't hear you.
We're starting at the same time. My question is that in the terms of final rankings, when we look at the best and final offer, this is a best value decision. We don't have to go with lowest price.
Correct.
Okay, that was just mine. I presume that. I just want to make sure that's there. John, you want to ask your question?
Thank you. Could you go over the timeline again so it's clear to everybody, including people that are participants or attendees on implementation once this decision has been made?
Yeah, so right now we have a timeline that was proposed to the vendors as part of the RFR that went out to the vendors that they responded to. The vendors themselves have responded back with their own timelines.
Yeah.
For what they think is the right time to implement their system and go through the configuration process. Part of the contracting portion of this will be to get further alignment on timeline. But right now, what we're expecting in terms of timeline, what was shared with the vendors is that to have the kickoff is currently scheduled for June of this year. So that provides time for the contract to be finalized. Then to go through a 6 to 7 month configuration process to December of this year, which would then the plan is to have a system configured so that we can do testing and implementation. And then the current plan is to have the system fully rolled out in October of 2026. In order to get there, we've been exploring opportunities to do a phased implementation and to look at where there's an opportunity to have a partial system implementation in the spring of 26 that will help with change management, with training, with ensuring our infrastructure is ready, et cetera. So at a high level, 2025 will be this contracting, configuration of the system, and then 2026 will be phased implementation.
Great, thank you.
So if I may, John, we'd be booking reservations for the October window, probably late summer, and we'd be importing the truck reservations into the new system sometime in the summer of 2026. So the people won't be traveling on the new system until October, but we'll be doing some reservation work for that time period earlier than that would be the goal.
Yeah.
That sounds wonderful. That sounds great. Thank you, Mark.
And John, just to let you know that how you're not off the hook here, that my understanding with the board created our steering committee to basically sunset at the end of 2026, kind of 90 days after the final implementation of the system.
And yeah, okay, good.
So you're stuck.
I can, as long as you're hanging around, I'll hang around.
So I should mention, one of the things that we're really going to be looking for from the vendor, especially once the contract period starts and we've kicked off with them, is they're also going to, because we're again going to procure a system that is already implemented, the vendor should be able to give us some guidance on what have they learned with the implementation of their system, what do they see as some of the best practices for implementing their system. And so we're hoping that they're going to bring to the table some of their lessons learned of how to do it well, and then we can learn from that, and that will improve the success of our implementation. So just to finish out the timeline, again, the plan is at the May meeting to have the vendor selected and voted on, and then we'll be doing the contracting period, and then planned for a June kickoff. Any other questions before we move on to if you remember, this implementation is much more than a reservation system. It's going to require a pretty comprehensive change across the steamship authority, and you can't implement a reservation system without also looking at what are the operational implications, what are the infrastructure implications, and so part of this project is, a major part of this project is to also align the steamship in terms of the infrastructure and the process and communication that's happening both with the public and commercial customers. So we're going to shift at this point into a short update on some of the other activities of the project team. All right, so the first is that in order to prepare for the new reservation system, we need to make sure that we can actually support the system, and ensuring that the infrastructure in place. This includes all the wires, the black boxes of connectivity, to make sure that this system is going to work. So, similar to you can have a great laptop, but if you can't connect to the internet, it doesn't really do much for you. We're gonna have the same challenge with the Steamship Authority of making sure that we can connect all of the devices that are going to be handling the reservation system for issuing tickets, scanning tickets, et cetera. And so we do have from an infrastructure assessment vendor, IntraSystems, we've gotten an initial set of findings from them for the current infrastructure. I'm happy to go over this. Steve, do you want me to run through it and then you can add commentary, or you want to go for it?
No, but be my guest, I'll jump in where necessary.
All right.
The truth is, I don't want to get too deep into this.
Yeah.
Because it is initial findings, right?
Yeah.
It's really to provide preliminary insight as to the direction we must go.
Yes, so we wanted to share this because we want to make sure that the subcommittee had some awareness of this work stream for the infrastructure upgrade, knowing that it's critical. And so the vendors come out with an initial set of findings. Again, these are initial, and the final won't be delivered until next month. But the initial findings are helpful, in some cases not surprising. So in terms of deployment of Microsoft Azure, which is one of the backbone services that the steamship uses for access to systems. This is in the green, so low risk, which is great. In terms of application dependency, we're in the red. This is known. This is affirming what was found during the technology assessment, that the existing suite of applications is not meeting the steamship's needs, and the RFR process is to move this from red to green.
The good thing is, this box entirely will be eliminated over time.
Yeah.
Right? Reducing risk.
And then next is the physical location review. So this is looking at all of the infrastructure that is, supports the existing systems. Right now, the vendor is suggesting that as preliminary that the steamship needs to look at a complete rework of the current network infrastructure. This again isn't too surprising if you've ever driven up to one of the booths at one of the terminals, and you'll see that the steamship has older wire, older equipment. This was a known thing, and the vendor has validated that. And then the next piece that we don't have a preliminary update on is just a risk program review, looking at the vendor's going to help us identify additional risks that we need to consider moving forward. Any questions on this?
Just a comment, it's well done and well thought out. Thank you, Tom and Stephen.
I guess my kind of question, I guess, would be to Steve, is that given the physical location review preliminary findings, how involved are you now in the Woods Hole Terminal reconstruction project and moving forward in the design or redesign as we upgrade our other terminal buildings such as Vineyard Haven? And then obviously I think the next major one is going to be Nantucket.
Yeah, so the good thing is, IT was brought in very early for the Woods Hole Terminal. So in regards to where things are laid out, how things are cabled, we're in good shape. At this point in time, we're in very good shape. We expect the same across all the terminals. I think the good thing about having legacy infrastructure, the steamship has gone through this before, and they've recognized their pain points. And move past them.
And you're going to, and the thought is that, conduits, wires, accessibility so that we can grow with the technology, that we're not going to be stuck with 20-year-old wires and 50-year-old building, or a building with a 50-year lifespan plus.
It says complete there. I think it's an appropriate statement.
Okay.
I truly believe over the course of this project, everything, for the most part, will be ripped out and replaced.
Not gonna install a 1/4-inch conduit.
Right.
Yeah.
And in addition to that,
We're not going to let an architect vary some lines because it looks nice aesthetically, and so that you don't get access.
Functionality is more important sometimes than aesthetics.
to continue the improvement process, we also recognize that whether it's quarterly or semi-annually maintenance required. So PM, full-time PM throughout the year.
Great.
So we don't go into disrepair again.
Great.
If I could add, one of the other things that we're exploring as part of the project is where is there an opportunity to leverage wired infrastructure and then also wireless infrastructure. And so with the wired infrastructure, right, that's, as we talked about, right, that needs replacement. But then also looking at where is there an opportunity to leverage wireless infrastructure, which then can help with that future proofing. Because it's as you can imagine, it's easier to move the location of something that's wireless versus something that's wired. And so looking at how do we make sure that we've got, a robust infrastructure, have those access points in the right places, so that then it gives the steamship authority more options going forward. Okay, the next piece was, we wanted to give the steering an update on the commercial portal slash allocations project. So this is another project similar to infrastructure, where we've, as a project team, have been wanting to make progress before the vendor is selected and comes on board, because there's a lot that can and could be done, and so trying to make progress on this before we kick off with the vendor. The commercial portal is an effort to rework, both from a systems but then also from an operations perspective, the preseason process that currently happens with the steamship. This is, as far as we can tell, this is still a very unique process to the Steamship Authority. That is, while unique, it's also necessary given both the volume and the footprint of the available vessel space, parking space, et cetera. So,
If I can, just for benefit of the public attendant, we're talking about the commercial portal, we're talking about freight reservations
yes,
and freight transport, not passenger and passenger cars.
correct.
Okay.
So this is handling all of the trucks that are bringing, bringing goods like groceries over to the island, bringing fuel over to the island, bringing trash back from the islands. That in order for this to work and meet everybody's needs, the majority of commercial reservations are made before the season is opened up to the public for booking, in order to make sure that there's enough space allocated to make sure that enough groceries can get over to the islands before then we start booking space for cars. And the existing process does have a system behind it, but it's also a very paper heavy and manually intensive process. And so this is an effort to update that process, make it work more efficiently, and have a better system supporting it. So a system is being developed that will have an interface for the commercial customers. It'll allow the staff to be able to edit allocations and commercial booking, and then follow the predetermined rules for commodities, the lottery, and following rules around usage, and then also enhance the reporting and analytics available to make this work better than it does today. So this is informed.
John.
Oh, yeah, John?
I don't know what,
Comment?
yeah, to the chair, just for a sideline comment to Peter. I don't know do you want me to just talk or should I raise my hand?
It's just the two of us, so I guess feel free to just talk.
All right. Tom, a couple questions. So Intrasystems is going to write this in what language?
I don't know that
C#.
it's in C#. Okay.
There's some ancillary stuff, but the mainstay is C#.
C#. Okay. And then where are they in the process? Are they 50% complete, or what's the timeline on this being delivered?
Yeah, so they're going to deliver what's called an MVP, a minimum viable product, at the end of this month, and that will have the functionality that is shared on the slide. So it will have, the plan is to have the a minimum set of functionality to be able to do an end-to-end process. And then be able to look at where does it need to be, potentially enhanced, modified, changed to move beyond what the current system can do. So the intent is by the end of the month to have a system that delivers what the current homegrown system does, and then have time to be able to improve it.
And be ready in the fall.
That is, there'll be a decision where we believe in August to decide whether or not it is ready for the fall to put it into production.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So there's a question mark of, ideally, this system will be ready to be used with the existing reservation system, and then will also then be configured to work with the new reservation system that's to be named. But that decision won't be until the end of the summer.
Okay.
That decision, though, will be informed by the work of the project subcommittees. This is given that we're going to create a portal that the commercial customers are going to use. We know that it can't be successful if it's created in a vacuum. And so it's been informed by listening sessions that happened in the fall with commercial shippers. And then the plan is, as part of the subcommittee effort or sub-team effort, to get additional feedback from commercial shippers to improve this, make sure it's going to work for them before we start using it as the live system.
In the demo yesterday that I saw looked very good. Was very intuitive, very straightforward for someone to use it. And then the big part will be the plan to migrate it to the users, whether it's learning open houses with the shippers, individual meetings, helping them put their transactions in for the first time to make sure we get it right. So it's a big undertaking.
It's huge, it's great.
Yeah, so I mentioned the sub-teams. The next update that we want to give was around the individual sub-teams. So as had been introduced at previous board and port council meetings, this project has a series of sub-teams. They're working on different areas. The customer and terminal experience, the commercial experience, accounting and technical. I've already mentioned the technical sub-team is really helping guide the work with intra-systems around the infrastructure assessment and preparing for any kind of testing, data migration, etc. The commercial experience sub-team is helping guide the work on updating the pre-season process, and the next step for the commercial team is, as I mentioned, we're scheduling some engagement sessions. We're gonna look to, as Mark mentioned, share a version of the portal with the shippers so they can see what's being built and get their feedback, get their thoughts on how it's going to work for them. And then the commercial experience team is also looking at where do we need to do some refinement of policies, and be ready for what the reservation system vendor is going to be asking in terms of configuration of the new system. Similarly, the commercial and terminal experience team has been meeting on a similar schedule. So these teams have been meeting on a bi-weekly basis looking at, right now, the customer experience team is looking at policies and procedures, looking at wayfinding, looking at digital signage, and then also doing, some thinking around just what should the end-to-end experience look like for a customer experiencing the steamship authority. So while when we did an early visioning, we said the goal of this should be that, when you take a trip to the islands, the steamship process really should be the last thing you think of. You should be focused on your trip, you should be focused on your destination, you should be focused on, the wonderful vacation that you might be having, or just getting home. And, but we said, okay, well, we can do better than that. Let's look at each individual component of the customer experience from from initial booking and updates to your updates to your reservation, to where should you park, to where should you be at the terminal, to how you get on to the vessel. All of those components, really trying to dive into it all. And so to inform the customer experience, similar to the commercial experience, we're planning a series of engagement sessions, town halls, et cetera, in the next couple of months to get people's feedback on not just how the new system should work, but really how that overall experience should work. And similarly, the accounting sub-team has also been meeting to make sure that all the internal functions are being accommodated and reporting needs are being met, and looking at how to make sure that we're integrating with the existing accounting system.
If I could add, I guess this is probably more of you, Mark, than Mark. And I'll bring this up during new business, but I think a good agenda item for this committee's next meeting or the meeting thereafter would be to talk about how and when are we going to do these customer engagement sessions, town halls, both for the shipper and the customer internal experience, as well as provide some public comment at our meeting as to how the public thinks they would like to engage in this. Since we have some time, we obviously want to get a sample of our July and August public, not just a year-round public, which are equally important.
Interesting, that was the thing we were talking about, how for this meeting, is it a town hall, is it a working group where, you have an open house, people come in and one-on-one talk, is it multiple different methodologies, what is the best way to extract information and give and get feedback?
Yeah, I mean, I have some ideas on that, and I'm sure John does. We can have it at a different meeting, but I think we need to use multiple methods. And one of the things I think we can do is just have a listening session on days on the actual ferries themselves, on the vessels themselves going back and forth. We have a captive audience for, at least on the Vineyard side, on the Vineyard, Woods Hole side, captive audience for 45 minutes.
Yes,
Or 30 minutes if you figure that, 15 getting on and seated, and, the 7.5 minutes getting on and out of port, and the 7.5 minutes coming back into port. We have a captive audience for 30 minutes.
Sometimes 2 hours.
Yes. That might be taxing for both parties. Nantucket, 2 hours.
Just the one other thing I should mention is these are not intended as one and done. The intent of this effort is continuous engagement, and so each of the sub teams is going to be looking at how to continuously get feedback, especially as we look at how to inform not just the configuration of the system, but then as we're rolling it out, what people are looking for. We're looking to fulfill that, that commitment just by having the listening sessions that occurred in the fall and then having the follow-up for the commercial experience. Okay, if there's no other comments on these, the next component is the project management. Ensuring continuity of project management for the project.
And so right now, we're in the process of extending the Gibbs contract through June 2025. We need to determine, going forward, how that, how the PMO, who's gonna be the PMO and how does it go? Right now, Gibbs is on a state contract, I forget which number it is.
PRF 76.
PRF 76. And one of the requirements of that contract, I'm not gonna try to repeat it, is that to get 3 quotes. So internally, it shouldn't be someone on our committee, just to make sure it's an arm length transaction. So when Terrence Keneally gets back in the office, I'll be talking with Terrence on Monday to start that.
John, do you have any questions on that?
Well, I just hope that we're not waiting to the last hour to finalize things. And I didn't expect this to be one of the slides for today, but from my experience of working with technology, for decades, is that we are so fortunate to have Gibbs, each and every one of them, Lizzie, Oriana, and of course Tom, that this opportunity that we have with somebody like the 3 of them needs to continue. We're not going to be able to get this done without Gibbs's participation. And I don't know what the process is from a procurement standpoint, but we are blessed to have them already to get us to this point. I just want to see them continue and not wait the last hour to get their contract renewed.
John, I'll just add that I think the fact that we're looking at procuring the project management moving forward in July through PRF 76 and the state contract at least streamlines that process, that we don't have to go for RFP evaluation and just have to look at quotes. And then is this, I guess my question is, maybe none of you, this is, we can get these quotes and then do we go best value, or is it best price?
I gotta look at the contract. I'm not sure if it's best value, best price. I'm not sure what the answer to that is. If we will look it up and get back to you.
Do you see who's going to be managing the process if no one on this team is going to be part of it?
I'm going to talk with Terrence Keneally on Monday when he's back in the office. And so I imagine it's probably Terrence and it's Peggy's more than arm length the way I can say it. And Peggy Nickerson, who was our procurement officer.
And then assuming it goes out, so it may not even have to go out to an RFP?
John, my understanding, it's not going out to an RFP. We can use the state contract PRF 76, and what is required under that contract is to get 3 quotes from contractors, vendors authorized by the state under their contract.
My understanding. And
all right.
I will verify.
So my understanding is that Gibbs could give us a quote and then 2 other contractors on that contract list. And then from those 3 quotes, someone is selected.
If we put this out to bid, however, and there's only just one vendor submitting a response, do we have to go seek out the other 2, or can we go with the one?
I gotta look at what's the language in the 3 in the contract, and this is what it says. So I know for internally, for non-state contract, for our procurement, that if we go out for 3 quotes, say for an item for $11,000, and 1 vendor can do it, and 2 don't have the time to do it, that meets the needs of the 3 quotes internally. But we gotta look at what's in the language on that state contract, to make sure we're compliant with the state contract.
Got it. All right. And
For
then
the state contract, if we go through the state contract, my understanding is then we don't have to write an RFP. I mean, if you're gonna go for an RFP, you have to write it.
We just have to have the specs, so all
Right.
vendors are quoting the same thing, so everyone said is, no, it's all apples to apples. That we need this work done for this time frame.
That sounds like an RFP to me. No?
No, it's, we get the information, we reach out to vendor A, reach out to vendor B, reach out to vendor C, we say we need your quote by X amount of time. They send it back and then, we award it, we bring it to the board for award after that.
It doesn't require the same publication standards and timeframes.
And then, will there be anybody on this committee that helps in that decision?
We would, because of the anticipated dollar amount, John, would go to the board for a, approval. We get the quotes from these three people, this is the quote, and this is the recommendation. And then the board would have, then the board would vote.
Prior to, I'm sorry to just stay on this point, but I want to understand it. Prior to that, let's say we get the three vendors, who will help make that decision? Anybody in this group?
No, that would be, as I was saying before, be an arm length, my recommendation would be an arm length transaction, that, just to keep it cleaner from optics and have whether Terrence and Peggy or someone else on the in-house side do it. But regardless, the contract cannot be awarded, unless it's board approved because of the dollar amount.
The board will have final decision.
Yes.
I get the board's final decision, but let's just say we have the chair here of the IT group. Can that IT chair assessment team, can we have Peter be involved in the process?
I will talk to legal counsel on Monday and follow up with, Peter, and yourself after individual.
Yeah, it just, and I don't want to belabor the point, but it just seems we've got a lot of, not a lot, we've got 2 years worth of knowledge here to get us to this point. And I just don't want to hand this off to two other people that are not intimately involved in the process. And thank you.
John, not having the contract for me, I can't get those details, and that's why we're gonna follow up on that.
All right,
Exactly how it's done in the, for the contract.
You can Google that and it's posted on the state website, the Commonwealth's website, if you want to read it. You want to go to, if you need some trouble, if you need some sleep aids this week, you can read it.
Thank you for the advice. And thanks, Mark.
Okay, great. Moving forward, and thanks for the positive words. I believe now we're to the standing or standard agenda items.
Okay, so in terms of old and new business, obviously, new business, we don't have any old business because this is our first meeting. That would be funny if we did. In terms of new business, I did mention the agenda item that I'd like to see. John, do you have any agenda items? I mean, obviously we can add them after, but that you'd like to see it at the next meeting?
Not at the next meeting per se, but maybe a meeting after that would be an evaluation of how to work with the existing website that we have put on the shelf. What's required there, more of an assessment.
Okay. I think
That's not something we have to do next month, but we should see it in our timeline at some point.
Mark or Steve, do you have anything you just obviously you know. All right. Then I guess we will move to public comment part 2. You can see he's raised her hand. All right.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm back again. I stayed through the meeting. Thank you very much for giving your time to this. I appreciate learning more about it. I guess my main concern, as often, is that there is open and consistent communication with the public as to the process that you're all going through and that this reservation system is going through. So whether it means talking to the press, whether it means doing an interview on the radio, whether it means having more listening sessions other than just the customer service demo listening sessions, so that people understand how long this is going to take and what it's going through to get there. Because as you know, how frustrated most people are about this system. And they need to hear that it's going to take a good 2 years, and it's going to be done in, phases, and commercial's going to be separate. And it just feels like, unless they go to a board meeting or unless they sit through 90 minutes of a meeting like this at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which many people can't, people won't know. And if you want to be able to communicate with people so that they're not complaining on Islanders Talk, it's a great opportunity to celebrate and to acknowledge the hard work that has gone into this thus far and what we're going to get at the end of it. So I would just say, keep communicating with the public openly and consistently, giving them updates. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a good point. We should add, maybe not for the next meeting, but the meeting after, a communications plan, once we've selected the vendor, what our communications plan will be moving forward. Are there any other public comments? If we don't have a parliament,
Do we have a next meeting?
I believe we have tentatively thought that it would be the Friday after the joint board and port council meeting, which May 16th. Does that work for you, John? May 16th?
As long as we have the meeting on the 15th, I can do the 16th with you all.
Yeah, I mean, that would be it's conditional upon having the joint board port council meeting on the 15th in November.
Correct. I've kind of closed out both of those days till the decision has been made.
Okay. Yeah, if the board meeting, if we haven't voted on the vendor contract yet, we won't meet until the board and port council has awarded the contract.
Yeah. Why don't we say we meet on the 16th, and if we have to change it, we will.
Okay.
That work?
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay.
From a parliamentary standpoint,
Does 1 o'clock work, or is there a better time, or?
does 1 o'clock work for you?
Yes.
Okay. It works for me. I wouldn't want it anything later on Friday as we move towards voting.
You know, in reference to Ms. Cody's comments, you might want to think about planning a meeting later in the day. You might get more participants.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. That my preference then would then be we leave Fridays to another weekday if we're gonna have it later in the afternoon.
Yeah, yeah.
But we can discuss that at the next meeting too, of when we want to have our kind of established time.
Right.
Do I need a motion to adjourn since there's only 2 of us?
So moved.
Only me too, so yeah.
It's only the 2 of us. I guess I second, and then we're adjourned.
No, I gotta say John Cahill, yes.
All right, I'll say Jeffrey, aye. If
All
I
right.
said nay, what would happen? We split, we just stay.
I know, right? We gotta stay here all day.
And I'll do a filibuster.
All right, thank you.
We are adjourned. It's 2:07. Thank you, John.
Yep.